In this AlignMix how-to video, I will show you how to import account data into your AlignMix file. Now before we begin, I should re-emphasize that there is no order for the import process. You can import accounts first, or your sales reps first, or even your zip code data first. But in this example, I will show you two ways of importing your account data. One way will be importing your account data into an existing zip to territory file that we've built in AlignMix. And the second way that we will import this data is into a blank AlignMix file where there aren't any geographic territories created. So now let's go over everything that we see here on the screen. Here we have all of the column labels in the same row. That will simplify the import process. And here we have everything in row 1, which by default, many companies have their Excel templates created this way. In column A, we've got a unique ID. I highly recommend using a unique ID for the import process for your accounts. All your data will then be linked to this unique ID. It is not required to have that unique ID. You can import just with a name of the account. If you only use the name for your import, then AlignMix will create a unique ID for you, starting at 1 and moving down that line all the way to the end of your rows, whether it's 20,000 or 30,000. That would be your final unique ID number that AlignMix creates for you. We then have the street address, the city, and the state, and then most importantly in column G, we've got the zip code. We can't import any data unless we have that geographic component. Since we're working in a US-based file with our base geography set to 5-digit zip codes, we have to have our data at the 5-digit zip code level. If you're working in Canadian FSAs, you would need this column to be your 3-digit FSAs. Here in column H, we have a segmentation for all of these accounts. In this example, they are all A, B, C, and D, but you are not limited to a single letter. It could be any type of customer grouping. And you're also not required to have a segmentation for import. If you import without a segmentation, all of your accounts will appear as the same icon on the map, and you won't have an account legend appear on your map. We also have these accounts assigned to territories. Now remember, if you're importing these accounts into a blank file, you will be creating an account-based territory alignment, so you won't have any geographic shapes if you haven't created those zip to territory assignments already. Here in column J, we've got our assigned sales rep, and then in column K, L, and M, we have numeric data that will be linked to these accounts. And then finally, in our final column here, we have some text-based data that will be linked to these accounts. So now let's minimize this and start the import process. So here you'll see on the map that we have sales territories created. The 3-digit blue number is the territory ID. So we are importing accounts into an existing file where the territories have already been created. So to start this import, you click on File, Import, Import your data, and then we select that file for import and click on Open. AlignMix will default to showing you the first tab in that Excel workbook. So we have to click here on the back button and then select the Accounts tab and then click on Next. Here on the left side, these will show you the columns that appear in your spreadsheet. So these are all the column labels. Now what we need to do is we need to drag and drop these labels for our columns from the left to the corresponding section on the right. Since we are performing an account import, most of our data will be dropped here into the account section. So first, let's drag over the unique ID for the account. Click on that ID with the left button on your mouse, hold that left button, and then drop it here to unique ID. As you do that, you'll notice a lot of the categories below have collapsed. Basically, the software is making this import easier by removing those sections that are not relevant for your account import. Name gets dragged to name. If you do have the street address, that gets dragged over here to the street address. Street to, if you have that. City to city. State to state. Zip code goes here to zip code. And you can now import everything that you've just dragged over because you've dragged over that zip code, which is telling the software where to place these icons for your accounts. You can also import your accounts if you have the latitude and longitude for the locations of those accounts. So instead of pulling in the zip code, you can use the lat and long for the import. So moving on, we drag our segmentation over to segment. These accounts are assigned to a territory. That comes over here. We also have sales rep assignments. You can click and hold Control on the keyboard to select multiple columns of data. So I'm going to pull in all that numeric data here to account numeric data, and then our text-based data will get pulled in here to text data. We now click on Next, and you'll see a summary of what we are about to import. And here in red text, you will see that there is 8 duplicates. So what AlignMix will do is it will look at every account ID, and if there is a duplicate based on account ID, it will actually merge those rows together. It will also sum up all those data sets that are linked to those IDs. So instead of having 8 icons representing the same unique ID on the map, you will only have 1. So now let's click on Next. That gets imported, and we have 1 retired zip code. That means in that Excel file, there is 1 zip code that used to exist, but based on the new shapes that we have here, it no longer exists. So the software actually replaces your old zip code with the new zip code. And now click on Finish. And right away, in the top right of the screen, you will see our ABCD accounts. If we zoom into an area, you will see those accounts are all scattered about. If I select the lasso tool and I lasso an area here in St. Louis and let go, you will see a summary appear. And in that summary, you will see a count of all those account segments and also the totals of any of those account data sets that have been found in that lassoed area. So this is what an import looks like when you've already created your geographic territories. So let's recap what we've done here. We opened up a file where we already had zip codes imported and assigned to territories. That's where we had that geographic component. Then we performed our account import that placed our accounts here in their correct locations, gave them a segmentation, and also linked data to those accounts. So now let's repeat this import process, but this time we will import our data into a blank AlignMix file. So let's go ahead and open up a new file and click New Project, and I'll click here on Finish. Here is our blank AlignMix file. So now let's repeat that import process, but this time our map does not have any sales territories created. So we will just be importing our account data into this blank map. To start, click on File, Import, import your data, select the file for import, and just like in the previous import, we have to click on the back button and select the Accounts tab and click Next. So let's drag over our ID to unique ID, name to name, street address to street address. Let's drag in our city to city, state to state, and now let's try to click on Next. And you'll see that we can't proceed to the next step because we haven't dragged in our zip code. So let's drag over our zip code, and now you can click on Next. But before we do that, let's finish dragging all of our sections over. Assign territory to territory, sales rep to sales rep, and our numeric data sets here go to numeric data, and text-based data goes to account text data. So if we click here on Next, same summary as before, Next again, and Finish. And again, you will see our account segments appear here in the top right for our A, B, C, and D accounts. Zooming in, you will see those accounts start to appear on the map. You can see they're all located in their correct zip codes. Now, if I lasso an area here and let go, you'll see a summary for what's in that lasso section. And you may be wondering, why aren't there any territories created? You can see there's clearly territories here from this summary. And yes, we have created territories, but we've created territories at the account level. We haven't created geographic territories yet. In order to create those geographic territories, we either have to import a zip to territory file, which will create those geographic assignments, or you can go to the cleanup tool and have the software clean up all the zip codes for you. And the cleanup tool will be discussed in a later video. So now let's click here on Close, and that's it. You've just learned how to import your account data into AlignMix.